I think it's important to note that this is the easiest way for me to customize my Joy-Cons. My background is in software development and computer science, so I'm not as experienced as, let's say, an electrical engineer. I'm just showing you the steps that seem to be the easiest for me, and I'm not responsible for you breaking your Joy-Cons. So with that being said, let's begin. First, we're going to get our tri-wing screwdriver and remove the 4 screws on the back of the Joy-Con. Now we're going to take a prying tool and go along the curved edges of the Joy-Con to open up the Joy-Con. First and foremost, we're going to remove the cable that connects the battery to the Joy-Con, and then we're going to pry it up. Be careful for the adhesive. Next, we're going to lift up and then detach the antenna from the motherboard. We're now switching to our Phillips head screwdriver to remove the battery bracket from the Joy-Con. Be careful removing the battery bracket because there is a ribbon cable that is still attached to the motherboard. We're just going to unlock and detach the ribbon cable to make it easier going forward. Now we're going to detach these 2 ribbon cables that are connected to the Joy-Con railing. It's important to note that the locks on the ribbon cables are on opposing sides of each other. Now we're going to pry up the rumble motor from the Joy-Con. This might be a little hard at first. And we're going to unscrew the joystick. We now can unlock and detach the ribbon cable and set it aside. We now need to detach the motherboard from the Joy-Con shell. So first we're going to unscrew these 2 screws, remove the button carefully, and lift up the motherboard. We now need to pry up this little frame thing. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but we need to carefully pry it up, then carefully detach the infrared sensor. And for now, we'll just set this little mess aside. Going back to the shell, we're just going to steal this joystick buffer. And now we can grab our new shells or any of our new buttons or joysticks that we're going to be housing. Insert our new buttons into our shells and then cover them with their associated membranes. We now plop our motherboard mess into our new shell, but don't be like me and forget to insert the joystick buffer beforehand. Next, we're going to take our joysticks and we're going to screw them into our motherboard. We're going to put the 2 screws back into the motherboard. Take our trigger button and place it into the shell. Now we're going to reconnect the joystick ribbon cable. Now we're on the hardest part of this entire reshell process. First we have to pry up the trigger button and then remove the 2 springs and unscrew our clicker. Now we do the same exact thing but in reverse. The hardest part is putting these pins into the springs and then snapping it back into place. After we have mastered the trigger, we now can go and replace our LED lights on our Joy-Con railing. Here we are also swapping out the SL and SR buttons. And now we can swap in our new LED lights. After that, we screw the railing back into the shell and then reattach the railing to the motherboard. Now we reattach the battery bracket's ribbon cable. and screw the battery bracket back in. Now we're going to snap back in the antenna and then slide it back into its slot. Reattach the battery. Grab our tri-wing screwdriver and place back in the 4 screws. Now for our left Joy-Con, we follow the same beginning steps of unscrewing the 4 screws on the back, prying open the Joy-Con, detaching the battery, unscrewing the battery bracket, and detaching the ribbon cable. This is where it starts to get different. First, we're going to detach the joystick ribbon cable, then detach this ribbon cable that covers one of the joystick screws. We then can remove our joystick, detach the railing ribbon cables, unscrew our motherboard, and detach the rumble motor. In this next part, we have to remove the 3 screws in order to get rid of this ribbon cable. And then we follow the same process for reattaching this joystick buffer and inserting our new buttons. We now can place our motherboard back in the shell and screw in the screws at a diagonal. We now can insert and reattach our joystick and insert the ribbon cable that goes on top. Here we go through the same process as the right Joy-Con for swapping out the buttons on the battery bracket. And the same process for swapping out the LED lights on the Joy-Con railing. Now we can reattach the railing ribbon cables to the motherboard. Insert the left trigger. Attach the battery bracket ribbon cable. Screw in the battery bracket, attach the battery, and close the Joy-Con. To make sure we did everything correctly, we can test the buttons on each one of our Joy-Cons. And when that looks all great, we can move on to our Joy-Con wrist strap rehousing. First, we're going to remove the 3 screws that are on the railing. Remove the railing and then this inner plastic piece. Now we're going to remove the strap and the locking piece. Now we're going to take our strap and put it around the 2 spokes on our new shell. Now we're going to pull the strap down nice and tight and insert the locking piece on top of it. Now we're going to wrap each strand over the top of the lock. Now we're going to insert the piece for the LED lights, and then the 2 large springs into the buttons. We're then going to steal and insert this membrane, and then we snap in the locking piece into the opposite side. Once that's in, we can put the small spring in this hole and place the plastic cover on top. And finally, we can attach the railing by putting in the 3 screws. Now be sure to test that the strap is only coming off whenever the lock is pulled up. Now that we have successfully reshelled the Joy-Cons, we now can change the display colors from blue and black to red. To do so, we can download this open source program called JoyCon Toolkit and download the zip file from GitHub. We can extract the files and run this JC tool application. It'll give you an error the first time if you have not paired any of your Joy-Cons to your computer. So to pair our first one, we will click Add Bluetooth or Other Device, click Bluetooth, and then put our Joy-Con in pairing mode. Now we can select our Joy-Con and pair it. Now when we go to run our application, it should pop up immediately. First, we need to back up our Joy-Con just in case if something were to go wrong or if our battery dies. After that, we then can go and change the body and button colors. So first I'm going to change the color to be this red color, and then I'm going to change the buttons to be white. Now we can click OK and then write our colors. Now we need to click disconnect from our application, close the window, and then unpair our Joy-Con. But there you have it, guys. We have fully customized these Nintendo Switch Joy-Con shelves. I love the result. I love the colors, and I love that I was able to do this 100% by myself. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. I am Maddie, the Hippie Hacker, and I will see you all next time. Bye.